Before we begin, we recommend wearing headphones for the best experience. This is a personal account from the channel American Pulse and Paranormal, titled, "I Got a Job at a Warehouse in the Arctic." There's only one rule: keep the lights on. In the winter of 2024, I found myself in a challenging situation, unemployed and struggling to make ends meet. One evening, while scouring online job boards, an unusual listing caught my eye. Warehouse assistant needed in Arctic region. Competitive pay. Must be comfortable with isolation. One essential rule: keep the lights on at all times. The promise of a generous salary and the allure of an adventure in the Arctic were too tempting to resist. After a brief interview process, I was offered the position. The job required me to relocate to a remote warehouse facility, miles away from the nearest settlement. Upon arrival, I was greeted by Mr. Thompson, the facility manager, a stern man with a no-nonsense demeanor. He emphasized the importance of the single rule: under no circumstances should the lights be turned off. Not even for a second. I found the rule peculiar but assumed it was related to safety protocols in such a harsh environment. The warehouse itself was massive, filled with endless rows of crates and boxes. The constant hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound breaking the silence. My first night was uneventful. I busied myself with inventory tasks, ensuring everything was in order. The isolation was palpable, but the steady brightness of the lights provided a sense of security. A week into the job, during a routine inspection, I noticed a flickering light in one of the far aisles. Recalling the strict rule, I hurried to replace the faulty bulb. As I stood on the ladder, the light went out completely for a brief moment. In that split second of darkness, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something was watching me. When the light returned, everything seemed normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. Determined to ease my mind, I decided to check the security footage. Reviewing the footage, I saw myself on the ladder, changing the bulb, but in the moment the light went out, the camera captured a shadowy figure standing at the base of the ladder, staring up at me. As soon as the light returned, the figure vanished. Panic set in. I rewound the footage multiple times, convinced it was a trick of the light or a glitch. But each time, the figure was there, clear as day. Disturbed, I approached Mr. Thompson with the footage. He watched silently, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, he spoke. "This is why we keep the lights on. There are things here that thrive in darkness. As long as the lights remain on, we're safe." I wanted to press further, to understand what exactly we were dealing with, but the grave look in his eyes told me it was best not to ask. Determined to learn more, I began exploring the warehouse during my off hours. In a secluded corner, I found a stack of old journals belonging to previous employees. Their entries spoke of similar experiences: fleeting shadows, feelings of dread, and unexplained noises. One entry stood out: March 15th, 2019. The lights went out for just a moment today. In that darkness, I felt a cold breath on my neck. I fear we are not alone here. As days turned into weeks, the weight of isolation and the constant vigilance began to take its toll. Sleep-deprived and paranoid, I started seeing shadows moving just beyond the light's reach. Every flicker sent my heart racing. One night, as I lay in bed, the entire facility was plunged into darkness. The backup generators failed to kick in. Panic consumed me as I fumbled for my flashlight, but its beam barely penetrated the oppressive darkness. In the faint light, I saw them. Multiple shadowy figures, slowly closing in. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent hunger. I could hear whispers, unintelligible but filled with malice. Desperation fueled me. I remembered the portable floodlights stored in the maintenance room. With trembling hands, I managed to set them up, bathing the area in harsh light. The figures recoiled, retreating into the shadows. The power outage lasted for hours. I spent the entire time huddled in the illuminated circle, clutching the flashlight, praying for the main power to return. When it finally did, the relief was overwhelming. The next morning, Mr. Thompson called for a meeting. His usual stern demeanor was replaced with a somber expression. "We've become complacent," he began. "The events of last night are a stark reminder of the dangers we face here. From now on, we will implement stricter protocols to ensure the lights remain on at all times." He assigned teams to regularly inspect the electrical systems and mandated that portable lighting devices be within arm's reach at all times. The gravity of the situation was clear to everyone. Despite the precautions, the atmosphere in the warehouse grew tense. Whispers of past incidents circulated among the staff. Some spoke of colleagues who had disappeared without a trace during previous outages. Others mentioned sightings of the shadowy figures lurking in the periphery of their vision, even when the lights were on. Sleep became a luxury. Nightmares plagued my rest, filled with visions of being engulfed by darkness, unable to escape the grasp of the shadowy entities. The line between reality and hallucination blurred. One evening, while performing my duties, I stumbled upon a hidden door behind a stack of crates. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pried it open. Inside was a small room, walls lined with strange symbols and drawings depicting the shadowy figures. At the center was a journal, older than the ones I had previously found. Flipping through its brittle pages, I discovered entries from the original builders of the facility. They spoke of uncovering an ancient underground cavern during construction. Within it, they encountered the shadowy entities. Believing they had sealed the cavern, they built the warehouse above it, instituting the rule of keeping the lights on to prevent the entities from emerging. The realization was horrifying. We weren't just dealing with random apparitions. We were living above their prison. Armed with this knowledge, I approached Mr. Thompson. He listened intently, his face growing paler with each revelation. "We need to leave," I urged. "This place is a ticking time bomb." He sighed heavily. "It's not that simple. The company has too much invested here. They'll never agree to abandon it." Frustration and fear gnawed at me. I couldn't fathom staying another night in that accursed place. That night, as I lay in bed, the lights began to flicker again. My heart raced, and I clutched the portable floodlight, ready to switch it on at a moment's notice. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the main hall. I rushed out to find several lights shattered, darkness seeping in. The shadowy figures were more visible now, their forms more defined, eyes gleaming with intent. The other staff members were already in a panic, scrambling to set up additional lights. But it was clear the entities were becoming bolder, their influence growing stronger. In the chaos, I made a decision. I gathered my belongings, knowing that staying any longer would be a death sentence. I confronted Mr. Thompson one last time, urging him to leave with me. His haunted eyes reflected his inner turmoil, but he refused, bound by his duty and fear of the unknown. As I left the facility, the bitter Arctic wind biting at my face, I couldn't shake the feeling that the warehouse was watching me. The sense of dread lingered, and I knew that the shadows would haunt my dreams forever. Determined to leave, I ignored Mr. Thompson's warnings and set off on foot towards the nearest settlement. The journey was treacherous, the Arctic wind cutting through my clothing like a knife, but I knew I couldn't turn back. The sounds of the warehouse, the hum of the lights, the whispers in the dark, they haunted me with each step. I reached the settlement after what felt like an eternity. The warmth of civilization was a stark contrast to the cold, oppressive atmosphere of the warehouse. I reported my experience to the authorities, hoping they would understand the gravity of the situation. They listened with skepticism, treating my account as the ravings of a madman driven to the brink by isolation. Leaving the Arctic behind, I found a small town to settle in, far from the memories of that cursed place. Days turned into weeks, and the nightmares gradually faded. But every now and then, in the dead of night, I would wake in a cold sweat, the echoes of whispers still ringing in my ears. My time at the warehouse remains a haunting memory, a tale of survival and the unknown. And as you go about your day, remember this: always keep the lights on. You never know what may be lurking in the shadows, waiting for the darkness to take hold. As I trudged away from the warehouse, the Arctic winds howling around me, I couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. What if I had missed something crucial? The grip of fear and desperation had driven me away, but the mystery of the shadowy entities gnawed at the back of my mind. Despite the comforting warmth of civilization, something about that warehouse pulled at me. A need to understand what those entities truly were. I resolved to delve deeper into the history of the place, starting with the journals I had brought along. Each entry whispered secrets of the past, revealing more about the haunted warehouse and its dark inhabitants. I soon discovered that the warehouse had been built atop an ancient burial ground, long since forgotten by history. The entities, it seemed, were the disturbed spirits of the souls buried there, trapped in a cavernous void. The lights were not just a barrier but a source of agony for them, preventing their return to rest. Could there be a way to help them move on? Days turned into weeks as I immersed myself in research. Every lead I followed, every book I read, pointed to one possible solution: a ritual to pacify the spirits and allow them to finally rest. The thought was terrifying, but it was the only way to free myself from the lingering dread that haunted my every step. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to return to the warehouse. I contacted the authorities, sharing my findings and persuading them to grant me temporary access to the facility. They were skeptical but relented, seeing my determination and the sincerity of my fear. When I arrived, Mr. Thompson was there to greet me. His once stern demeanor had softened, an understanding glimmer in his eyes. Together, we gathered the necessary materials for the ritual, which included ancient artifacts and symbols from the journals. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and dread, every step echoing in the cavernous expanse of the warehouse. The ritual demanded that we momentarily turn off the lights to allow the spirits to pass through. The thought chilled me to the bone, but the hope of bringing peace to the restless souls gave me strength. With trembling hands, I recited the incantations, carefully drawing the symbols on the warehouse floor. For the briefest moment, the lights went out. The darkness was suffocating, and the whispers grew louder, filling the air with sorrow and anguish. Shadowy figures surged forward, their eyes glinting with desperation. But instead of fear, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. This was their moment to find peace. When the lights flickered back on, the warehouse was still. The whispers ceased, and the shadowy figures were nowhere to be seen. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by an eerie tranquility. Mr. Thompson and I exchanged relieved glances, knowing that the ritual had succeeded. As we left the warehouse for the last time, I felt a profound sense of closure. The spirits had been laid to rest, and the haunting dread that had followed me for so long finally began to dissipate. The Arctic landscape, once cold and forbidding, now felt like a place of quiet introspection. But peace did not come easily. I had nightmares of the ordeal, waking in a cold sweat as memories of shadowy figures and echoing whispers plagued my mind. The fear that something unresolved remained stayed with me, whispering doubts in the dark corners of my consciousness. Months passed, and my resolve to understand what had transpired only grew stronger. I reached out to paranormal investigators, historians, and even local folklore experts. The more stories I heard, the clearer the picture became. The warehouse was not merely a haunted location. It was a nexus of supernatural activity, a confluence of energies and spirits drawn to the site over centuries. Discovering this put my mind in a spin. What if the ritual had only been a temporary solution? What if the entities found their way back, seeking retribution for being disturbed? Once again, I decided to return to the Arctic and confront my fears head-on. The journey back was fraught with tension. The icy wind seemed heavier with every step closer to the warehouse. The familiar sight of the structure looming out of the fog brought back memories, both chilling and revealing. Inside, dust and silence had settled over everything. Mr. Thompson had left a note for me. The peace is fragile. They may return. Be ready. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the note in my pocket as I prepared to conduct an even more intricate ritual, one designed to seal the site permanently and create a barrier that no spirit could breach. This ritual was unlike any other I'd encountered in my research. Understanding the risks, I sought help from individuals with expertise in the paranormal. Together, under a new moon, we began the preparations. The air was thick with tension, each of us aware that failure could mean unleashing untold horrors once more. As we worked, I couldn't help but feel the weight of countless eyes upon us. The spirits, perhaps, or the very soul of the Arctic itself, watching and waiting. Our collective breath misted in the cold air as we chanted the ancient incantations, each word echoing through the cavernous darkness. The final step required complete darkness once more. With a deep breath, I extinguished the lights. Previously quiet whispers grew into a cacophony of voices, anguished and pleading. My heart pounded, but I held my ground, focusing on the chant's rhythm and reaching out to the energies surrounding us. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the voices began to fade. The darkness lifted, and the oppressive weight eased. As we turned the lights back on, a sense of profound peace filled the warehouse. This time, the tranquility felt genuine, lasting. As we left the warehouse for the final time, I felt a sense of fulfillment. The spirits had found their rest, and the lingering dread was replaced by a serene calm. The Arctic, once a realm of fear and dark whispers, now felt almost inviting in its stark beauty. After leaving the warehouse, I couldn't shake off the experience. The voices and shadows haunted my days and nights, and despite feeling a sense of closure, I knew I had to continue exploring the deeper mysteries I had uncovered. In the months that followed, my research took a new turn. I delved into ancient texts, visited libraries, and met with scholars who shared my curiosity. Every piece of information I gathered pointed to something even more significant than the haunted warehouse. A network of ley lines that connected various paranormal hotspots across the globe. The Arctic warehouse was merely one of these nodes where the energy of the entities had converged. Eager to learn more, I compiled a list of similar sites around the world. These locations, much like the warehouse, were often built upon ancient grounds with histories of hauntings and supernatural occurrences. With this knowledge in hand, I set out on a new journey to visit these places and document my experiences. Each location had its own story, its own hidden entities, and its own rules to follow. The haunting similarities were impossible to overlook. One such site was an abandoned hospital in Eastern Europe, infamous for its restless spirits. Like the warehouse, its walls whispered secrets of the past. Armed with the knowledge I gained from my Arctic ordeal, I approached the hospital with both caution and determination. To my astonishment, I realized that the same rituals and incantations could pacify the spirits there. This discovery strengthened my resolve to continue my quest. Another location was an ancient temple in South America, shrouded in mystery and legends of curses. The dense jungles around it teemed with supernatural energy, and the locals spoke of spirits that protected the sacred ground. Employing my newfound skills, I managed to uncover artifacts and perform rituals that brought peace to the site. The gratitude of the locals was immense, and I felt a growing sense of purpose. But these successes did not come without their share of trials and tribulations. Each encounter tested my resolve and pushed my understanding of the paranormal to new limits. The entities I faced were as varied as they were powerful. Some demanded appeasement, while others sought only vengeance. Navigating these delicate interactions required continuous learning and unwavering patience. One night, as I sat by the campfire in a remote village in Asia, an elderly shaman approached me. His weathered face and piercing eyes conveyed centuries of wisdom. He spoke of the balance between light and darkness and how my actions influenced the equilibrium. According to him, the entities I encountered were reflections of humanity's collective fears and desires. Understanding this balance was key to mastering my abilities. The shaman taught me practices that harnessed positive energy, protecting against malevolent forces. His guidance helped refine my rituals, making them more potent. My journey had now transcended mere survival. It had become a mission to restore balance wherever these ley lines intersected. The global nature of my quest meant constant travel and exposure to various cultures and spiritual beliefs. From the deserts of Africa to the mountains of Nepal, each encounter deepened my appreciation for humanity's shared history with the supernatural. Along the way, I recorded my findings, hoping to compile a comprehensive guide for future explorers. Despite the constant change of scenery and the multitude of faces I encountered, the Arctic warehouse remained etched in my heart. I often found myself reminiscing about Mr. Thompson, wondering if he ever left the warehouse or if he continued to stand guard. The bond we formed in our shared terror was a testament to human resilience and connection. As my journey progressed, I became more attuned to the energies around me. I could sense the presence of spirits before they made themselves known. This sensitivity, while invaluable, also weighed heavily on me. The burden of constant vigilance and the responsibility to bring peace to restless souls was overwhelming at times. One evening, while resting in a peaceful meadow in New Zealand, I received a letter from a fellow paranormal investigator. The letter recounted their own experiences at a similar site and expressed gratitude for the knowledge I had shared. This heartfelt communication reminded me of the importance of my work and renewed my resolve. My last stop on this global expedition was a secluded monastery in Tibet, where monks had preserved ancient manuscripts on the supernatural. The serene surroundings provided a stark contrast to the haunting experiences I had endured. Yet, even here, the monks spoke of entities that required rituals to be kept at bay. Their wisdom and guidance were invaluable, emphasizing that while the entities were powerful, they could be understood and managed. Having traveled the world and faced countless entities, I returned to my small town with a new sense of purpose. My experiences had not only broadened my understanding of the supernatural, but had also strengthened my belief in the interconnectedness of all things. The journey had transformed me from a fearful warehouse assistant into a seasoned investigator of the unknown. As I reflected on my journey, I felt deep gratitude for everyone who had supported me. The sense of community and shared curiosity had made the daunting task manageable. This story, dear listeners, is not just mine but a testament to our collective desire to unravel the mysteries that surround us. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. Your support and encouragement have been the backbone of my quest. If this story has resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest adventures. Your presence means more to me than words can express. Together, we have uncovered secrets and faced fears, shedding light on the darkness. And as I continue to explore the unknown, I carry your spirit of curiosity and courage with me. Until next time, remember, keep the lights on, for you never know what lurks beyond the shadows. Thank you, listeners, for joining us on this harrowing journey. Your support and engagement bring us immense motivation to continue sharing these experiences. If you found this story compelling, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest tales. Your support means the world to us, and we look forward to sharing more spine-tingling adventures with you. Until next time, stay safe and always remember, keep the lights on,